Okay, hello everyone. My name is Emil. I was the ETA in Province this year. So excited to present. I was so excited to come to Bulgaria. A little bit of background on me. I was born and raised in the US, but my parents are both Bulgarian. My mom's from Varna, my dad's from Sofia, so I grew up speaking Bulgarian. I grew up coming to Bulgaria every summer. It's a country that I've always loved, and I've always been so proud to be Bulgarian. And so it was something that I was just really looking forward to, interacting with a culture that I loved and a country that I loved in a different way. Because it's one thing coming here every summer and staying in my grandparents' apartment. It's another thing living alone in province and really becoming part of a community and the country that I'm so proud of. Okay, so I arrived in September in Province, and if you've never been to Province, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in Bulgaria. It's super tiny. It's the smallest placement. It's 2,500 people. It's like no one there. Sometimes I feel like I'm walking around and I'm the only person on the street, but it's gorgeous. There's a beautiful golf resort. There's a beautiful lake. And immediately I was welcomed with open arms. I'm going to give so many shout outs to my mentor teacher, Stefka, but I'm going to give one right off the bat because Stefka is like the hardest working, most incredible person I've ever met. Like, she cares about her students so much and is so involved. Like, invited me immediately to her house for dinner. That's her dog. We went on a few walks with him. Stefka's absolutely wonderful, and I can't give her enough credit for making my time in Province so great, because I'm a very absent-minded person sometimes, and I would text her at all hours of the day with stupid questions about my electricity, about my water, and she would always help me. That's the opening day at the school. The way I'm going to structure this presentation, I'm going to go over every month really quickly where my mindset was at, my favorite lesson maybe, and what I was feeling in terms of how I was developing as a teacher, and maybe some fun things I did. So the most fun I had during September was writing poems with my students about colors. We read poems about colors. It was, this really wonderful poem book that I brought from home, and the students wrote some really cute poems about colors. So that was my favorite thing we did. The students welcomed me so kindly. They are wonderful. My 11th graders quickly started calling me Emka, which is like a nickname for Emil in Bulgarian. And the other teachers, whenever they hear my students calling me that in the hallways, they're super mad. And they're like, calling Господин Emil. And I can't get mad at them because my 11th graders have full beards and they look like 5 years old. All right, October. So I was still settling in October. I was still finding my footing. I want to make sure you guys know that I had a really great time in Province. During midterms, I had a video that became infamous because people thought I was depressed in Bulgaria, but I actually was really loving it. I was just having some trouble sometimes. Because sometimes I'd come home and I wasn't like feeling fully fulfilled with what I'd accomplished. Maybe I'd broken during the lesson and my students weren't understanding something, and I decided to start speaking Bulgarian to really understand, so that they could understand me. And that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to speak Bulgarian. I'm here to speak English and be a native speaker. Since I don't have a background in teaching or pedagogy, what's the point of not speaking English? So in October, I was still settling in, but I was really starting to understand some of my students. Even though my 8th graders were driving me crazy, or my 11th graders weren't motivated and were coming in late all the time, I think we were really starting to understand each other. My favorite lesson from October was showing my students Shark Tank. We watched Shark Tank together, and I had them think of their own inventions in class, and that's my 10A class, writing about an invention. And that is Grace at the Public Marathon. That was the most fun thing, because I didn't have to run in the marathon. I just watched it. Okay, November and December. November and December, I really felt like I started to find my footing at the school. I felt like I started to understand what made each student click, because we're not only teaching in multi-level classrooms, we're teaching in classrooms full of individuals, full of kids who are so different in terms of what motivates them, in terms of what they are interested in learning. Now, obviously, you can't cater to every student's needs at every time, but I really started to understand, what my students were motivated by and how I could best serve them and make their time with me. My favorite lessons in November and December were we solved TEDx riddles. TEDx has a wonderful YouTube series about riddles, and so we did a lot of logical thinking. I was studying for the LSAT last year, so I did a lot of that stuff, and it was really fun solving riddles with my students. I think learning to think logically in another language, second language, I don't know how they did it. I was super impressed. They're so smart. we also did a lesson on Indigenous peoples history, Indigenous people in the US during Thanksgiving. I thought it was important, to tell stories that they might not have any idea about in terms of American culture, given that Thanksgiving is something that they might only have a certain perspective of in terms of American culture, and so I wanted to give them a different perspective. And my students responded so positively and so open-mindedly to that lesson, and so that was a real standout for me. I remember working really hard on that one. And then another favorite lesson, I think that's me teaching right there. Eliana took that picture when she visited. I taught an ethics lesson about the trolley problem and utilitarianism and deontology, and my kids were super into it. Jack gave the idea for this lesson with saving people off a boat. It was a ton of fun. And a lot of really cool stuff happened in November and December as well. My girlfriend Joyce visited, that's her in the bottom right. I brought her in for show and tell to my classes. They absolutely loved her. That was a ton of fun. I climbed Musala with Dante, Grace, and Joyce, and that was incredible. I think that might be the coolest thing I've done, even though at the moment I was hating it because my feet hurt so bad. But it was very cool. And also this is when Best ramped up, and that's my best team at the top. I adore my best kids. My best kids are always, all the kids are nice to me, but my best kids are especially nice to me during class, and they always help me out and participate a lot in my classes. So I'm really thankful to them, and yeah, I love my best kids. We didn't make it to debate in the fall, but we made it in the spring, so we'll get to that. Okay, so January, the end of first term, we were rounding off the semester. We had another Best tournament. We did some really fun lessons about memory, about how they could try to remember information when they were studying. My kids found that really interesting. And goal setting. We wrote letters to our future selves. My students all wrote letters to themselves in a year. And there's no ETA in Providence next year, but I want to find a way to get them those letters so that they see whether they accomplished what they wanted. Yeah, the end of the semester was really wonderful. I got to go to Pernik, which is something that I always wanted to do for the Kukuri Festival. Growing up, my mom had kukuri that she gave to me and put on my wall, and so that's always something that I wanted to see. And it was super cool going with a bunch of little writers. That was a highlight. Okay, February. I was very excited for the start of second term because when I wasn't fully satisfied with how some things turned out in first term, I saw February and the second term as a fresh start, like an opportunity to solve all the things that I didn't feel went well in the first semester. Stop speaking Bulgarian altogether in class. That's not what I'm here for. Make sure discipline goes better, things like that. So February was, really fulfilling in that I felt like I was starting to do what I came here to do. We had some fun lessons about Valentine's Day and Groundhog Day. I believe Hannah Peterson taught the Groundhog Day lesson. It was very good. And also, my highlight of the month was I got to help. I'm really into soccer tactics. I nerd out about soccer. And my kids were playing a soccer game against the other high school in Providence, or the computer school, and they invited me to coach the team. And I was very motivated. I came in a full suit to this game. I was prowling the touchlines like a real soccer manager. I was like, we're not losing to these computer nerds. There's no way. We lost 4-2. But my students tried really hard. And given that, one day of training, I think we did pretty good. Okay, the start of spring, Baba Marta. This was another really good month. I remember this month mostly through playing table tennis. I started a table tennis club at my school, and so I had 5 or 6 students that would come play table tennis with me after school. Absolutely loved it. Me and one of the girls ended up going to a table tennis tournament, and she ended up winning. Super proud of her. She's amazing. It was just a really fun way to interact with my students. I love ping pong. Just fun. I also got to go to Tsadovitz. There's Jack being taken as a political prisoner. And there's a beautiful sunset in Providence. And my favorite lesson from the semester, another one that I got the idea from someone else, from Dante. We read The Belt, the science fiction story, and then they wrote their own science fiction stories using AI to help them develop their prompts, which was super cool. It was a way to involve AI in the classroom at a time that a lot of the students were talking about it, although they were talking about it mostly to help them write their essays. We tried to show them a different way to help them just think of ideas instead. And so that was super cool. Okay, April and May. I call this one In the Groove because I think I probably did my best teaching the past few months. I think I got a real handle on discipline, and I also got to do some wonderful things around school. We had Best Nationals, which was great. My kids did great. Super proud of them. I went on a trip around the Balkans with a lot of people from the cohort. That was incredible. Sarajevo, one of the coolest cities I've ever been to. And I went to Real Monastery with Dante and Alex, and that was wonderful. My favorite lesson from April and May, we did a lesson about weird American food. And I taught them about all the weird Southern food. I'm from Georgia, that I've eaten, like Kool-Aid pickles, Koolikles. They thought that was super freaky, so that was cool. And we also did logic puzzles, which they really liked. And we also had prom. I put that in June. I cheated because June has just started, so I haven't really done anything in June. But in June, it's sad, but I'm starting to say goodbye to people, the people that I really care about that I've met during this experience. There's prom, absolutely beautiful picture from the golf course in Providence with my 12th graders. Had a lot of fun dancing with them until 1 a.m. and then they kept going until 6 a.m. I think. And there's just pictures of my students being funny, being silly. I don't think I've gotten this across enough, but I love my students a lot. They're such goobers. They're very funny. Big fan of them. And there's me and Stefka at prom. Again, the biggest fan of Stefka in the world. She's incredible, like the greatest. But I also asked my students to film short videos talking about their favorite lessons from our year together. So, okay. Well, we don't have to show the video. Okay.
Just one.
It's 2 minutes. Yeah.
Hi guys, it's Danny.
Hi, I'm Svetoslava.
Hi everyone.
I want to thank to Emil about this 1 year, how he teaches, and I'm so glad that we've met each other.
I'm starting this video with a huge shout out to Emil because this year was really exhausting, full of a lot of stress and hard work, and his classes were the best thing about school for the past few months.
About his lessons were so interesting, and my favorite one of these was Jeopardy, of course.
Often he makes a presentation about American stuff, and we have to answer questions about based on the presentation in Kahoot. This also were really interesting.
I really don't know any kind of lesson that I don't like it. Like every time it's interesting.
You understand that the classes were really colorful and really different and funny.
One of my favorite lessons were when we talked about ethics and when we watched movies, of course, because it's like a relief from this everyday life at school. Thank you, Emil, for making this year the best as possible.
I'm a little bit sad he has to go, but I never forget the moments we have with him. Thank you, Emil.